Fulton coming to you on a Monday. It is not the Monday that all of us were hoping for when we left on Friday at 3 o'clock. A bittersweet ending to an unbelievable season for the Kansas State Wildcats. We will get into all things cats and owls. We will talk Final Four. We will break it all down. Latest news in the NFL. Andy Reid speaking. Fulton has to figure out a way if he's going to trade for Lamar Jackson. We'll talk Royals baseball as opening day at the K, where the Royals will play Thursday.
Well done. Good job.
We will have your final chance to get registered for Royals opening day tickets, because there is some subset of Wildcat fans who are also Chiefs fans, who are also Royals fans. We're just going to get anybody registered. This is a therapy Monday, okay, for K-State fans. KU fans, let me help you out. You lost in the round of 32, and the opposing coach took off his shirt because he beat your team. So therefore, now it's a therapy Monday for you. And so there are some Royals fans who are KU fans. So we're just gonna get people registered. How about that? You know, yeah. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna find a way to get through it. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Let us know in the YouTube comments. Go to our website, 580wibw.com. You can watch the show. Click on the YouTube page. Click subscribe. K-State fans, talk me through what was going down on Saturday. Start of the game, halftime, 8 minutes to go, end of the game. I would love to hear how you have processed this, because I look at this as a bittersweet ending for the Kansas State Wildcats. And the reason I say that is this year, as we've noted, was an absolute blast. No one expected this. No one thought that you would make it to the Elite Eight. Nobody. Not a single person. And if you did, you just said it in jest, like, ha, 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 yeah, we're going to make the Elite Eight. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. So this was a resurgence for the Kansas State Wildcats. K-State was put on the map for the last week. One, because you had the most exciting player in the tournament. Kansas State had the most exciting player in the tournament, who probably garnered the most, what would you call it? Social media clicks, you could say.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often that the winning team in the region doesn't have the player of the year in the or player of the region. It's only happened 3 other times this millennia. Okay? Steph Curry, Carson Edwards, and now Marquise Noel. But you were the better team. I think Kansas State is the better team. I do. I think K-State is a better team than Florida Atlantic. But for the final 8 minutes, Florida Atlantic was not just the better team, they were the way better team. And that's why I think this one will sting for a long time. And the what ifs this time around are going to be a lot more memorable. I think this was a better basketball team than they had in 2019. I think this team is better than 2019. I do, because Dean Wade did not play in that game against Loyola, but I think this team was better. And in 2010, I think the opponent was better. Butler, come to find out, they had 3 dudes on that team. Okay, you had NBA guy in Gordon Hayward.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Shelvin Mack, who was really good.
Yeah.
And then you had their post player, number 54, and I can't remember. He's actually passed away because of cancer. But they had 3 dudes on that team. Turns out that team was actually pretty good, because they made the title game the very next year.
Mm.
But this one, I think this game right here will sting a little bit more than those. They were the favorite. They had everything going. And it still can be a successful year and sting at the same time.
Of course.
And that is how I look at this game and the season as a whole for Kansas State. Because that game on Saturday, with 8 minutes to go, you were up 6. And it was all Florida Atlantic, the final 8 minutes. I went back and I looked because I wanted to see just how did this occur. Florida Atlantic was trailing with 8:30 to go. They had the basketball, 16 possessions the rest of the game. K-State had the basketball, 16 possessions the rest of the game. Now, to me, a possession is when you have the basketball, either you score or you give it up. Now, a possession is I shoot it, I miss it, I get the rebound, I put it up and in. That's a scoring possession. K-State didn't touch the basketball or any free throws. Florida Atlantic had the ball 16 times. They scored on 11 possessions their last 16. Either field goals or free throws. K-State had the ball 16 times. They scored on 6 of them. The Cats didn't close in that game, and there's a lot of reasons why. One, they couldn't get a stop. They couldn't. Golden just big boyed them. They did not play good defense. They allowed open looks.
Mm.
They didn't get offensive rebounds.
They get rebounds, period.
And that final 8 minutes, they gave up 2 offensive rebounds, and they allowed points for Florida Atlantic. And they made their free throws at the end. Kansas State had the basketball 16 times. They scored on 6 of them. That is it. And the offense was nowhere to be found. And this is why I talk and so much. And we have a lot of things in that we talk about on this show. Never too good for free. We talk about that a lot. Finishing is the hardest thing to do in sports. Kansas State was up by 6. And the question is, do you slow it down? Do you stay aggressive? Same situation. Andy Reid, right? Finishing the game. Can you finish it off so it's not close? Kansas State did not do that in that game. And there's a lot of reasoning behind all of that. Momentum. I think in college basketball, the momentum in basketball, especially college, is the strongest form of momentum in any sport. Football, basketball, baseball, whatever. College basketball, momentum is so big. And look at what occurred in all 4 of these Elite 8 games. Uncle Mo was on the side of one team at the end of the game, and nobody could stop him. Uncle Mo happened to be on the side of the UConn Huskies for about the last half, but it's very difficult to stop it.
Yeah.
I think Kansas State got outplayed the last 8 minutes, and I think Jerome Tang has done a marvelous job. A marvelous job. I think how he's handled everything is terrific. I think what he's able to do for this program to put it back on the map is outstanding. He got out-coached the last 8 minutes because you got to do something to switch up the mojo. This game reminded me a lot of the KU game against Arkansas. K-State went 12 of 20 from the free throw line. Now, the stats will say 12 of 18. They missed 2 front ends of the 1-and-1. That's like missing 4.
Mhm.
So add 2 more missed free throws to me on that situation. They went 12 of 20. You got out rebounded 44-22.
Yeah, that's the real bad part.
You got 15 second chance points put on you. You allowed a 15-1 run. You didn't get a stop the last 2 minutes of the game. You lost by 1 possession. That right there is 5 things. If you shoot free throws better, K-State wins. If you rebound it better, offensively or defensively, you win. If you rebound it defensively, you win. If you find a way to get a bucket when you're up 6, or when you're up 4, or when you're up 5, or when you're up by 2, don't allow a 15-1 run. K-State wins. You get a stop at the end of the game. You get a win. This, to me, is more on Kansas State had so many opportunities, but they couldn't get over the hump when Florida Atlantic went on that run. And if you want to dial this all back and you do the math equation where, okay, you cancel out this one and this one cancels out and you do a whole bunch of X's, right? You want to know what the game essentially rebounding wise and the turnovers that K-State forced. They cancel each other out. Okay, I'm on board with that. They cancel each other out. 22 forced turnovers for K-State's defense led to 30 points for the Cats. They were terrific. But when you get out rebounded by 22 and allow 15 second chance points,
it kind of nullifies that a little bit.
That nullifies that. Okay. Both teams essentially shot the same amount, same percentage from the field and from 3. Not a whole lot of difference.
Mm-hmm.
Florida Atlantic made the free throws. They went 18 of 22, and K-State went 12 of 20 and missed some big ones down the stretch.
That's where you can really point to, and the biggest thing for me really truly was rebounding and free throws, because when you get killed on glass like that, it's a problem. And there's not a lot of time. Like, part of the reason Florida Atlantic got rebounded K-State was just Florida Atlantic's bigger. And when you're bigger, you get boards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, K-State had no answer for Vlad Golden down low, because Vlad Golden is a mountain. Like, he's just huge.
Mm-hmm.
And K-State's not built for that. And then there was just a level of FAU seemed more locked in. I mean, I've used this as an example a couple of times now. Florida Atlantic moving in transition, they go to Vlad Golden for a dunk, and on the backside rotation, K-State essentially blocks it. They get a piece of it. It is a missed dunk. You have completely changed everything. Grab the ball and run. One FAU Owl beat 2 K-State Wildcats to that ball, and it sat there for a half second. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's K-State just assumed there was going to be a whistle, and so they weren't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but that to me was just a microcosm of everything, at least when it came to rebounding, was just K-State was a half step slower all night. And then free throws is just, you're not making them. Like, sometimes there's not a great explanation for it, but, we've talked about it. When you lose on free throws, but you shot your percentage, you can't really be that mad. It's like KU earlier this year lost a game, and people want to say, well, make your free throws. They had shot their average like 70-some%. And we were just like, no, do the other things. You did what you do on free throws. Yep. K-State was one of the best free throw shooting teams in the Big 12 this year. You can point to that because K-State is usually better. I mean, D'Anthony Johnson went 0 for 3 in the free throw line. He's a 77% free throw shooter.
And really was 0 for 4.
Really 0 for 4 because he missed the front end of a very important one-on-one. Now, part of that probably was his foul trouble taking him out of the flow and all. I mean, Ish Massoud was missing free throws. Yeah. And Ish Massoud's been a great free throw shooter all year. Like, that to me is the most uncharacteristic part of the loss is K-State was missing free throws and they normally don't. And that in a narrow game, the margins are so razor thin. Mm-hmm. You have to be the best version of yourself. And K-State wasn't.
From the YouTube's comment section, I sad the Cats lost, yes, but I'm no way disappointed because the unbelievable and unforeseen season they had. Very proud of them. And I think that's what a lot of K-State fans think right now. I think this is the what if. We're happy, but what if? K-State was a magical season for Kansas State. They were 2 possessions away from making it historic. because this would have been the greatest season in K-State basketball history. I'm sorry, but the year that they went to the title game in 61, there were only 16 teams in it. It didn't have the same type of sexiness. And I'm sorry if you were a member of the 61 Wildcat team or that was like your favorite year. It wouldn't compare to this year. I just don't see that. Only one team will be happy from the tourney. Sad my Cats lost, not playing their best game, but excited for the future. And I think that's how most Kansas State fans from the text line. Do you think Tang being out coached is a question of head coaching inexperience? I don't know if that's the word. It sure helps. I just know this. Do we think that Norm Roberts would have coached as well as Bill Self? No, I don't think so. Do I think the reason why Miami ended up storming back and beating Texas? Well, I can sure tell you this. Jim Larinaga is a better coach than Rodney Terry. And there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
All right. Now, UConn Gonzaga. Sorry, UConn just has better dudes. Okay?
Yeah, that's just UConn's players are better than Gonzaga had.
So I do think coaching matters. This is not a knock on Jerome Tang. There are times where like Andy Reid. Andy Reid got out coached in the title game against the Cincinnati Bengals at home when the Bengals won and went to the Super Bowl. Andy Reid got out coached in the second half. The offense turned into an absolute pile of mush.
Lou Anarumo got one on Andy Reid.
Yes,
100%.
And in this situation, I think that K-State did not handle the run at the end of the game well, and it just snowballed. It just snowballed and snowballed.
And Dusty May's been doing the head coaching gig, specifically the head coaching gig, longer than Jerome Tang. He's had to make those decisions a lot more.
And the last thing it says here, I'm now mad again after this segment. You shouldn't be mad. That's why I say it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
K-State fans, you had the most fun in basketball probably since 2010. The 2019 year was fun, but a lot of people still didn't like Bruce Weber.
Yeah, fair.
Right now, the Q rating for Jerome Tang is it's
off the charts.
It's the ceiling is the roof. For Michael Jordan. That's where it's at. It is. He can do no wrong right now, and so that's why I think you should be excited. And we'll talk more about K-State and KU tomorrow and Wednesday about the future for these two programs. But K-State, 3 consecutive. I'll tell you what, K-State has a type, and that type is getting to the Elite Eight and losing to a mid-major. And I'll tell you, there are some set of people who were hoping Tennessee was going to get there and beat Florida Atlantic, because you got Butler, Loyola, and now Florida Atlantic. Two of the last two most improbable runs to the Final Four have gone through Kansas State, with Loyola, and now, because last year it was Blue Blood Central. The year before that, when Baylor won, you had Baylor and Gonzaga in the finals, which was Baylor to pants them. And I don't remember who the other two teams were in that one. Then, of course, you had COVID, and then 2019, Virginia won, but K-State was that was frustrating. Coming up, though, weekend's takeaways and fails, and then we will hear from the K-State contingent after the game. And fails. My biggest takeaway: the best basketball player right now in the country, on the college side of things, is Caitlin Clark for Iowa. I don't know if people know this, but she dropped 41 points, 10 boards, 10 assists in a basketball game to lead Iowa to the Final Four. That's never been done before. A 40-point triple-double in college had never been done before. She does.
She's good.
She does in the Elite Eight.
She's good.
That's an incredible stat line.
No.
She is the Steph Curry of college right now for women. She's incredible.
She is absolutely insane. Sticking with college athletes that are lesser known about because their sports are not covered as much. Jack Caglione did Jack Caglione things for Florida baseball over the weekend. He's now currently sporting a 3.41 ERA, and by the way, he leads all of college baseball in home runs with 17.
I hope. No,
Jack Caglione is fantastic.
I hope this Shohei Ohtani situation is now a look at what could be.
Shows that if you do it right, you can be a two-way player.
Yes.
If you manage it properly, it can be done. No, I also hope we get a few more two-way players because for a while the thing was the workload can't be managed.
You got to choose.
You can do it, and that is exciting.
I wonder if we're not going to see that going forward. And that
I hope we do. Jack Caglione, fantastic.
Yeah, butter your own. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Jerome Tang and Marquise Noel. Well, back into Mic'd Up. Jake LeBon, Fulton Caster with you. We'll talk some Royals coming up an hour from right now. David Lesky will be joining us to talk all things Royals and opening day. Be listening. Your chance to get registered for Royals opening day tickets. We've got 2 opportunities. We've got a 4-pack pair. Well, that's tomorrow. We're going to talk more K-State. K-State fans, let us know. Hit us up on our text line as well as our YouTube stream. Some news today. Gene Taylor, K-State athletic director, got the Athletic Director of the Year award.
Good for Gene.
Not bad. I don't know if you know, but he's made 2 pretty good hires here recently.
They're all right hires,
Kleiman and Jerome Tang. So
decently successful.
Gene Taylor doing what ADs are supposed to do. And I don't know if you know, but they really have nothing else really to do building wise. They just got
you mean ADs should hire coaches with a lot of experience and make sure that they're the right choice to lead the program and not just prisoner of the moment and making poor decisions based off poor rationale because
correct. Yeah.
Very strange things happen.
Yeah. The Shamrock.
There's obviously nothing I'm referencing at all here.
The Shamrock Zone already taken care of. They got the new indoor facility taken care of. Basketball facilities done. That was a while ago. But yeah, I mean, this is a good spot to be in if you're Kansas State facilities wise. It's some of the best there is, no question. Want to get to the post game audio from some of the K-State players because you can kind of tell a little bit about it. But this is some of the discussion. First, we'll go with Jerome Tang. And Jerome Tang spoke to the media after the game, and this is what he had to say about losing the Elite Eight game for the 3rd time in a row.
When this happens, this is the 3rd time I've lost in the Elite Eight, and you can sit around and mope and cry about it, or you can really just think about the love and the joy that you've had through the season. And like winners keep their heads up, they don't drop their heads. And so our guys were not going to walk off the floor with their heads down. And then we're going to approach like tough things are going to happen in our life, and we don't get to wallow in it. Okay, we got to keep moving forward, and this is more of a lesson for them of becoming men than it is about basketball.
I don't want to say it's damage control, because that's when you think of damage control, you think of, oh my gosh, this is tire fire and it's just not good. What I think Jerome Tang is doing is trying not to let that one game define the year.
Yeah, you don't want one loss to be the defining moment of what was otherwise an incredibly successful season.
And that's where I think he is trying to put that into perspective to his players that, hey, in year 1, we made it this far. This was a great year. The old adage is only one person ends up happy in college basketball. I think Kansas State fans should be happy. It really, really will, because of what occurred to start the season. And he also mentions about his team losing and that, it still was a great year.
In the midst of probably one of the toughest things that, experience with these guys, if we can't be grateful in these times, then all the love and joy that we talk about is fraud, and we're not frauds. And so I want to give FAU and Coach a lot of credit. They did a great job. They were tough. They were together. They made big shots. You have to, they won the game. Okay, they won the game. And so this hurts right now, but I wouldn't trade these guys for 10 players, 10 others, or 20 others. I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. And so very thankful for the fun and the ride that we've had this year.
So that's what I think Jerome Tang has trying to do. And I know you see the video of Tang seeing everybody before they go to the locker room. I think that's what he was trying to convey, is that, hey, you know what? We had a great year. Don't let this one moment, where fans, like KU fans, when you lost to, was it 3 straight years you lost in the Elite Eight, where you lost to Villanova, you lost to Oregon, and I don't know who else you lost to.
I think it was
UCLA, maybe. I don't know.
It wasn't fun. That's all I'm going to say.
And that's where you get to, whereas everything comes down to that one game. And I think it's a different setting and a different circumstance for this K-State team. I think that's what Jerome Tang was trying to get across. Some other things about specifically the game. The big man, Mr. Golden. Here's what Jerome Tang had to say about their 7-footer.
Rebounding has been an issue for us all year, and we tried to make it tough for him. We tried to front him. They did a great job of lobbing it over to him, and then we played behind. He did a good job of scoring some buckets. I didn't think he was the difference. I didn't think he could score 20, and so I wasn't concerned with it. I was more concerned with the other guys, and but the other guys delivered too.
So I think Golden kind of made Jerome Tang and the K-State scout a little tougher, because he was terrific in the game. He was a force. 14 points, 13 rebounds. I know he didn't go for 20, but man, he was a big, big reason why they ended up winning those last 8 minutes. Also, he was asked about what neutralized Keontae Johnson that Florida Atlantic did.
Keontae played 18 minutes, and that's why he was neutralized.
He's not wrong.
But 2 of those fouls are on Keontae. I hate
but I don't. The thing is, I want to I don't think what he's saying is he's saying Keontae neutralized Keontae.
But what
nothing Florida Atlantic did.
Well, see, and I when I hear that, to me, and maybe I'm inferring it wrong, but when I hear that, and I know K-State fans are not are the officials and everything, 2 of the fouls that Keontae Johnson had were dumb fouls.
Yes.
Diving for the ball late when a FAU guy was clearly in a position to pick up the ball and he goes down to the ground.
Yeah.
Some people are like, well, it's a loose ball foul. He's just trying to do a hustle play. Yes.
But you got to be smarter.
But you got to be smarter than that.
I agree.
That one was on Keontae Johnson. The last foul of the game, he shoved the guy to the ground going for the rebound. That's a foul. So when I hear that, what neutralized, a part of me feels like he's like, well, the refs neutralized him because he only played 18 minutes in the game. And when you look at it, when Keontae Johnson was on the court, he was good.
Yeah.
He had a plus. His plus, I like plus minus, but I also dislike.
It's an imperfect stat.
Plus minus.
It's an imperfect stat. It doesn't tell a whole story, but it tells part of a story.
I think that it's more or less like who's on the court with you at that same time. I mean, I could have had a plus minus in that game as a plus if guys hit threes and they miss shots. So but that one to me says, well, when Keontae Johnson was on the court for 18 minutes, the Wildcats were 4 points better than Florida Atlantic. And that does not, the start of the second half, K-State was trailing going into half, 6 straight points. Boom. They're leading now. That isn't a surprise. And so I look at that as, I don't think that those calls and oh, the guy was over the back and oh, they were doing this. You got to be smarter and you got to pick and choose. And for the people like, oh, well, it's a loose ball foul. He's just trying to make a play. Just because no one has possession of the ball and it's just there in the middle of the court doesn't mean you can go and dive at someone and push them out of the way.
Yeah.
That's a foul still, and that's why I think that it's, and maybe that's what he's talking about. The reason why Keontae neutralized himself is, but
yeah,
he's not going to say, well, Keontae has to be smarter than that. Not in that setting. I bet if you gave him some truth serum, he would have said, yeah, Keontae's got to make better decisions.
Like, yeah, and that's where I think, as politely as I can say this, I think you're inferring it incorrectly. I think because the direct question was, what did FAU do? And Jerome was being very blunt of like, well, FAU did nothing. And they didn't. Like, no disrespect is intended towards Best Teammates team here. They didn't do anything to take Keontae out of the game because when Keontae was on the floor, he was helpful for K-State and their team was better. Like, that to me tells me FAU didn't do nothing to neutralize him. What neutralized him was he picked up 5 fouls. And were there a couple early that you could say were ticky-tack? Yes, but you can say that quite literally all the time.
But I don't think they were ticky-tack.
I don't think so either. They were the earlier ones were not as clear as day as the later ones. So that's where I can say you can use the wording of ticky-tack. I think they probably were all 5 fouls. You can't deny the last 2 fouls he picked up were Keontae Johnson has to be more intelligent. And it's unfortunate that his college career ends, but that's how it goes. But yeah, that's I think what Jerome's trying to say. There's, he's trying as politely as he can say, Keontae neutralized Keontae.
I hope so, because if he's trying to infer that, well, the reason why Keontae was neutralized is because the officials called the fouls on him. I don't like
a little bit of sour there because there probably were more than a few calls that Jerome's like, you didn't have to do that. And as a coach, you're never going to want them. You're going to want them if it's a 51-49 to go with the 49.
We'll get to more on some decisions and whistles coming up in the 1 o'clock hour with the rest of the Final Four, because we've got one of the most unique Final Fours maybe in the history of the NCAA tournament. And then finally, Jerome Tang was asked, what does FAU do so well? And I think this is a terrific answer by Jerome Tang.
When you draw up plays with X's and O's, right? On some teams, all the O's don't have to be guarded, so you can put your X's in the right spot to make it hard for the team to score on offense. Every one of his O's can score the ball, and that's what makes it hard to guard.
We'll stay on
and
this.
It doesn't matter if they can score 30; they can all shoot, they can all dribble, pass, and that puts your defense in a bind.
And that is the reason why Florida Atlantic has won 35 games this year.
No.
And if you look at their stats and you look at what this team does, they had 4 guys go for 13 or more points. You had the big man, who's a matchup problem. You had Martin, who can shoot the 3. Same thing with Davis and Greenlee as well. You had 14, 17, 13, and 16. And then the one guy who only scored 4 points, Nicholas Boyd. Yeah, he's a 37% 3-point shooter on the season. All right. And beg your pardon. He's a 39% 3-point shooter on the year. Averages 9 points. This Florida Atlantic team has a bunch of guys who are like B's and B pluses, and they've got all 5 guys who are B pluses. They don't have a bunch of A's. They don't. Like, this Florida Atlantic team reminds me a lot of the Royals when they won it. They didn't have superstars. Not one of them was a superstar that year. Lorenzo Cain was the closest thing to a superstar. His numbers, the reason why he finished 3rd in the MVP is because everything that he did accumulated, right? He was excellent defensively. He had a great year in extra base hits and average, and he just did everything well. But he wasn't going to come close to winning the MVP.
No.
So I look at that Florida Atlantic team, and that is what I get to. They don't have any studs. The 2 best players on the court were 2 K-State guys. And then when you look at the game, and let's take a look at the K-State roster, right? K-State in this game had Marquise Noel, who was incredible. He went for 30. Cam Carter, outside of a desperation 3, had 2 points in the game. Had 2, you know? And then one of their big players played 18 minutes.
Mhm.
That's why Florida Atlantic and San Diego State, honestly, they're like the same team. They're just 5 guys who are just consistent, but they're not studs. They don't have any Wongs. They don't have any Nigel Packs. They don't have any Sonogos. None of them will, whoever plays, Florida Atlantic or San Diego State, when they play against Miami or UConn, the top 2 or 3 players are going to be on either Miami or UConn's team. But the next 3 or 4 might be on Florida Atlantic or San Diego State. The last play of the game was basically a microcosm to me of the last 8 minutes. Marquise Noel on the last play of the game that resulted in the end of the game.
You know, I was trying to get Ish a shot. Coach wanted, Ish to set the screen, and I waved it off because I felt like, on the right side of the court, that's where Ish hits most of his shots. And they closed out hard to him, and he didn't get off a shot.
That ending, you probably have this. You've got Marquise Noel wanting to do one thing and trying to direct traffic. And then you just heard there, Marquise Noel said, Coach Tang wanted Masood to go set a pick for Noel. Well, Noel was wanting to get Masood an open look. So you've got Noel barking at Masood, all maybe the same time Jerome Tang is yelling at maybe Ish, saying, go set a pick. And then you've got Marquise Noel trying to do something different. And thus, nothing occurs. And that was the microcosm of the end of the game. And that's one where I go back to, you either need to let your point guard, who at the time deserved to cook, let him do his thing.
Yeah.
But also the guy who wants shooting the ball is Marquise Noel. Marquise, big swish-ish, right? He's had some big shots. He's trying to get him the ball. At the end of the game, it was not organized. And that's the reason why they ended up not even getting a shot off. And that's how kind of the last 8 minutes went. They didn't do a ton of offense in the last 8 minutes. And that's kind of what happened on the last play of the game, to not even get a shot off. And I go back to, do you remember what Jerome Tang said in his press conference on Friday? I'd rather them shoot a logoed shot than a turnover.
And
they essentially turned it over.
They
didn't even get a
did.
shot.
And this is not always like, there are always exceptions to rules and things that happen. For me, I want my best player taking the final shot in those kind of games. And I get Marquise's thought there. I get him thinking through, Ish usually hits his big shots from the right side. They'll probably focus on me, so Ish might get a one-on-one chance. The fact of the matter is, the play I think, and I imagine they were going to do, that I still think had a chance of success, is Ish sets a high screen. If it works, Marquise pulls from the parking lot. And you live and you die by that, because he had made those shots in the game, and he has before. And if that's how it goes, I think any K-State fan would have rather, and obviously, you want a shot off in general, but I think if there's any guy they're willing, this guy just goes hero ball and just pulls, it's Keys. And I would have just felt better about if that one moment, old Marquise Noel came out and went, I'm going to finish this. And I think his passiveness actually finally got to him. His change of wanting to be a little bit more, and it worked all year. That was a moment where it was like, no, Marquise, I don't need you to be the assist guy. I don't need you to be this great passer. I need you to get a little bit of space. I need you to pull from the parking lot and hit it.
And they had time to figure out a play because and kudos to the FAU guy. Hadn't shot a free throw all game long, goes and just swishes 4 straight.
Yeah.
But he's at the free throw line.
Mhm.
You got time to bark out a play. In this situation, yell, chop. We're running chop. Run it as fast as you can. Get up the court. Run it. Get a shot. Like, you should have been on the same page the last play of the game. It's not why they lost, but it's kind of a
It's definitely a factor.
microcosm of the last eight minutes. Coming up, we'll talk Final Four. We'll get to also David Lesky coming up on Royals Baseball. On 580 WIBW, Jake and Fulton Caster with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Mother Nature getting a little bit nicer. Hopefully you didn't have to scrape your windshield too much this morning, but it's turning out to be kind of nice. It is kind of nice. We got a lot to get to. Everyone loves the list today. Our favorite moments of the K-State men's basketball season. Terrific year for the Wildcats. And then we're going to talk a little Royals baseball. K-State fans, let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Let us know as well on our YouTube stream. Very easy to do. Go to our website, 580wibw.com. It's right there. You can see Fulton in the flesh. Let us know. Comment in the YouTube section. You can subscribe. Hit the like button as well. Very easy to get to. And Fulton, right now, let's get somebody registered for some Royals tickets.
Let's do it, Jake.
Should we do caller 26? No, let's not do that.
If you want me answering phones for the next 20 minutes.
Alrighty, we're gonna do this. We did the texting on Friday, so we'll do the phone call today.
Okay.
At least for this one.
At least for this one.
Tell me who was the East player of the region. Who was the player of the region in the East bracket? First person to call, 785-272-9429. If you've already registered, you don't get to register again. We've got your phone number already in a document, so you're not going to fool us. If you can tell me who was the player of the region in the East, you get registered for Royals tickets, opening day tickets. We will let you know tomorrow. That way you get tomorrow and Wednesday and then, some of Thursday to figure out how you're going to get to the game. Because it is a 3:10 first pitch from the K. We know that Zach Greinke going to start for the Kansas City Royals. We'll talk more Royals with David Lesky coming up at the bottom of the hour today. But we'll give away or get people to register a few more times throughout this show, as well as 580 Sports Talk. So be listening if you want to get registered for opening day tickets. We've got a pair of tickets and we got a 4-pack. We wanted to give a couple people a chance to go to the K on opening day.
We have a winner. First person that called that I picked up on, our first one to the line, did have the answer correct.
Marquise Noel.
It was. Marquise Noel is the answer to the question. So congrats to our good man, Doug, for being registered for tickets. Anyone else? We will have a few more. We'll try to get you other opportunities on our show today. There also will be opportunities on 580 Sports Talk later today. So if you missed out on this one, we still got some chances left. Do not worry.
Very, very simple. In fact, right now, if somebody can text in and tell me the 4 teams that are in the Final Four. First person to text in. Really simple, really easy. Like
we don't ask hard questions around here.
No, not when people are bummed.
You want to give them the softballs?
Yeah. Name the 4 teams that are in the Final Four. First person to text in. 785-272-9429. And we'll take abbreviations.
Now, this is just Jake testing you both a little bit on were you paying attention to the 4 teams in the Final Four? Also testing you in your texting speed.
Yes. The first person who gets it in gets registered for opening day tickets at the K. It is that simple.
Usual disclaimer applies if you're already registered. We can't register you again.
And we got one. Wait, hold on a second.
That's 3 of them.
Yeah, I think they.
I apologize to this texter from the 620. I don't think that 4th one I can. There it is. There it is. There's the correction.
There we go.
There it is. I was say I could give you the other typo 620. I couldn't give you the other one.
Yeah.
That is correct.
We've had 1-620 in there. Double check to make sure.
I have done the correction. We have 3 different 620s that are a part of this. They are all 3 different.
Okay, cool.
I'm on top of this game here.
Very good. It is Florida Atlantic San Diego State, UConn, and Mr. Worldwide, Miami. This Final Four has been one of the most unique Final Fours in the history of basketball. And here's the reason why. This is the first time that 3 Final Four teams are making their first ever appearance in the Final Four. Think about that. FAU, Miami, San Diego State are all making their first ever trip to the Final Four.
That's really fun. I think that's very fun.
There's not a single top 30 player in the recruiting rankings playing in the Final Four. Not a single one. That's incredible. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, the game of basketball is as close to the studs as it is to the 200th best player in the rankings than it ever has. Now, it's not to say that player number 10 is better than player 150. He is. But I think right now in the year of our Lord, 2023, player 10 to player 150 is as close skill-wise than, say, 2003 or 2009. I think the skill development, I think the ability to get coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the ability to put players in the best possible spots and the accumulation of talent around you is as close, at least the last 2 years, than we've ever seen. Last year, it was the Blue Bloods, Villanova, KU,
Duke, Carolina.
This year, it is SDSU, FAU, Miami, and UConn. But when you've got runs of 15 seeds to the Elite Eight last year, and you've got a 16 seed winning this year, 15 seed this year, almost making it to the Elite Eight again, no 1 seeds, I think it's just that close compared to years previous.
So I was talking to a buddy about this over the weekend, and I've developed a few thoughts upon, what we've seen this year and what years to come, and what this change is, and how these past few years have been. On the one hand, I think there are some things we can take from this year and from the last couple of years that I think can be extrapolated to going down the line. The ability for lower level teams to find a way to compete with the high majors is closer than it's ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that'll change that much. An ability to recruit, ability to navigate with the transfer portal. Things are so incredibly different, and you're able to just amass different levels of talent so quickly and things like that. With those different facets and the way the game has changed, I think that does open the door a little bit for some of these lower seeds to get victories. I think there's also a couple other factors that make it to where what we're seeing right now probably isn't permanent and probably will change. One is some of the way some of these teams have been constructed, particularly the mid-major teams, are influenced by the COVID years.
Okay.
Are influenced by some guys are there, and some collections have been created that would never have existed before that has been changed.
This is the last year of the COVID year coming up.
It is. So because San Diego State, some of those old heads in old years of eligibility would not be there.
Correct.
They just wouldn't. So I think that's a thing that's going to be gone. That's a factor that's going to, was different this time. I think that's affected some of these low major teams. This year specifically, there's one thing that I think has led to this tournament of chaos. This is the first year in a while to where there was never a dominant team this year.
Correct.
Think about it. Every other year, we can point to a couple of teams and go, oh, we knew from the beginning they were probably going to win a national title. They were from the jump. We're like, oh, that's your favorite this year.
Well,
who was that this year?
KU's a perfect example. Let me ask you, who wins the game? KU last year takes on KU this year.
Oh, KU last year, hands down. Beats the crap out of this year's team.
And KU's team this year was a 1 seed. So
yeah, and that's your point. I think the 1 seeds are a great example of this. Alabama, KU, Houston, Purdue. Those are 4 beatable 1 seeds. Like, even as great as Alabama was at stretches this year, they got 30 ball punked by Oklahoma. Like, they were a beatable 1. There wasn't an unbeatable, oh my God, it'll take a David performance to beat them. Purdue, we all knew Purdue was a fraudulent 1. Like, we sat Brendan had them losing the first weekend in his bracket. Dan had them dropping in the Sweet 16. I had them out in the Sweet 16. Like, we all were like, oh, that's just a beatable 1 that might just survive based on luck alone. Brendan and I, as KU through and through we are, we knew this KU team was incredibly vulnerable this year.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talked about it when Arkansas won. It was like, Arkansas teams won. Arkansas was lower seeded than they probably should have been, but also like that's a dangerous match with how KU's played this year. As great as Houston was, and they were really good, they had their flaws that you could see all year. I think for this year specifically, we are seeing this of like no one's making it to the the Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm.
The highest seed in the Final Four is a 4 seed. All of this.
And UConn shouldn't have been a 4 seed, by the way.
UConn shouldn't have been a 4 as well. UConn so good. With all that, it's like, well, we're here because this was the downest year at the top we've had in forever. That probably ain't gonna happen again.
It might
the
not.
Giants will be back.
It might not though.
There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah,
I do think the other 3 games that UConn, they're
so good.
And the problem is Gonzaga plays no defense.
Yeah.
And their best player got in foul trouble. And so they had no chance.
Yeah, and Adama goes insane.
San Diego State, the ending of the game is getting a lot of controversial talk. And to me, at the end of the game, that was a foul because the defender pushed the shooter on the hip during his shot. That is a foul. Okay. And he was behind him as well. All right. That singular play. Let me ask you this. If that play, you just popped on the video and you said, is that a foul?
And my answer is yes.
Yes, that's a foul. There is no debate that's a foul. Okay. All right. Now let's put it in context. At the end of the game, is that a foul? Yes, because the man beat his guy off the ball, goes up for a shot, and he gets pushed at the hip. All right. I don't care if there's 5 seconds to go, whatever. That's a foul. You go to the free throw line. Now, everybody, at least in my social media mentions, were like, they never called that throughout the game. That's not whether or not it's a foul or not. That is a completely different issue. Mm-hmm. That is called a lack of consistency in calling it.
Yeah.
That's 2 different things. Oh, they didn't call that throughout the game. That shouldn't be called then. Well, then they screwed up throughout the game. Because the definition is that is a foul. If we're going to go black and white here on people, and that's what I've been told, everything's black and white now. There's no gray area. All right? None. 0 gray area. Then the officials got it right.
Mm-hmm.
Every other play before that, they got it wrong. That's a foul. I don't care if you are playing in high school basketball. I don't care if you're playing in low college basketball. If you're playing in the pros, if somebody shoots it and you shove them in the hip, that's a foul. The right call was made. The biggest issue in all of basketball right now when it comes to officiating is the consistency.
Mhm.
Well, they didn't call at the beginning of the game as opposed to the end of the game. How are the players not supposed to know? That's not a end of the game specific foul issue in the San Diego State versus Creighton game. Do I feel bad for Creighton? Yes. It's the same thing that happened in the Kansas City Chiefs game in the damn Super Bowl. Juju Smith-Schuster was held. If they didn't call that in the beginning of the game, that is because at the beginning of the game, the officials got it wrong.
Yeah, I've always held this belief when people say things like, officials need to swallow their whistle the final few moments, blood player side, blah, blah. No, that's always been my belief. No, if you commit a foul with half a second left on the clock, guess what? You have committed a foul. Do not come out with,
So therefore, what happened is the officials didn't determine it. The player did.
Yeah, you committed a foul.
Who was the one who, I don't know who fouled.
I don't know. Guard without foul.
Yeah,
I think
he
it was
got beat off the ball.
Guard without fouling.
Don't let dribble penetration go.
Yeah,
don't let dribble penetration
I will
go.
never, ever, ever agree with the idea of officials should ignore fouls in late moments to let players decide. Because then you are not letting players decide. You are letting the officials decide by letting fouls go uncalled. If a guy makes an illegal play, I don't care if it's in the first play of the game or last play of the game. You call it. And if you go, well, they didn't call it all game. Okay, then your anger should not be with them calling it at the end.
No.
It's be angered that they didn't call it all game.
The other foul I'm actually against is what happened in the Texas versus Miami game. You can't box out anymore.
Yeah.
You can't. Apparently, you can jump up even before the shot is made, and as long as the guy boxes you out too strong, it was too good a box out.
Yeah.
And someone's like, well, he jumped up, then he boxed him out. No, he didn't. I've looked at that play several times. He was boxing him out, and then the guy jumped, and then he just kept going. Was he supposed to stop? So we're not supposed to box out. It's just whoever jumps higher? No, I was taught my entire life boxing out.
Yeah.
That to me, that is a misrepresentation of the rule. I didn't like it. That play honestly didn't matter in the game.
Yeah,
It was
and the great scheme of things didn't matter, but at the moment,
I mean, in the moment, it was a close game,
Yeah.
and that play did. Texas was not winning that game. No. The snowball was going downhill. Coming up, everyone loves the list here on this Monday. We're going to go with favorite moments for K-State's season, and then we'll talk with Dave Lesky on all things Royals. All righty, everyone loves the list. Today we are going with our favorite moments. Favorite moments of the 2023 season for K-State.
Easy as that.
Yes. All right, what do you got?
Number 4 for me, it is 4. It could be higher if it didn't also come against my favorite team, so that does knock it down a few pegs. The Marquise Noel to Keontae Johnson lob at the end of the first one game against Manhattan against KU. They threw a lob in that situation, and I can't lie, it was very cool. Really, really mad had happened against KU though. Why?
Number 4 for me, the ish swish 3-pointer against Baylor to basically beat the Baylor Bears. That is my number 4.
That's my number 3. Ish's shot against Baylor to get that victory. That was one of those first real big moments where you're like, oh, this K-State team's going to be able to really, really do some good work here. So no, that was a very, very, very fun moment.
Number 3 for me is actually not a basketball play at all.
Oh.
It is Jerome Tang yelling at the K-State crowd, KSU, 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 because he basically that was the beginning of the end of the big league chew chant. So I'm going to go that with number 3 for me.
Number 2 for me, Marquise Noel's 19 assist game in the Sweet 16. That was absurdly awesome.
My number 2 is the alley-oop from Noel to Johnson.
Which one?
Yeah, see, that's the fun one. It's in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no, that one was also amazing.
It's in the NCAA tournament.
Also, it's a little bit more flair to it than I think the KU one did.
Yes.
But also was very nice and very important. No, that the fact that we do get to say which one because they've had 2 key lobs are just amazing.
Number 2, the alley-oop. I mean, there's a minute left to go in the game. The game was what's going to happen.
It was fantastic.
MSG, it's huge.
Yeah. Number 1 for me, this is weighted heavily in part because I was there and in attendance, but just senior day as a whole event and experience. That day was awesome. That game was amazing. That arena, the atmosphere, everything about it. It's a senior day.
I think Marquise Noel's 20-19 game against Michigan State will go down as one of the greatest games in K-State history. Yeah. And that's number 1 to me. That's number 1. No one has ever had 19 assists in an NCAA tournament game.
No one.
Except for Marquise Noel, and he had 20 points to go with it. Coming up next, we're going to talk all things Royals baseball with David Lesky. We'll get into the NFL news today, what Andy Reid had to say to the NFL Network, NFL meetings going on right now, the news of Lamar Jackson wanting a trade 3 weeks ago, but he's bringing it up now. We're going to get into all of that. But we are inching closer and closer to Thursday at 2:30 when the Royals Radio Network will air right here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, game number 1 of the J.J. Piccolo, Matt Quatraro era. And to talk all things Royals baseball, we bring in David Lesky of Inside the Crown. Very simple, very easy. Just Google Inside the Crown, click on the first image, and get a ton of great baseball information your way, right to your email. It's as easy as counting to 10. That simple. Dave, are you ready for Thursday, my friend?
I mean, I emailed you 25 days ago asking to come on. I don't know what took so long. It must have gotten lost with Lamar's trade request, I guess.
You know, Lamar and that email happened at the same time. Give me your excitement level right now, and I'm not going to lie to you, okay? Fulton, his excitement level it goes to 11. He is drinking all of the Kool-Aid. He's drunk on the Kool-Aid. Dave, I've been beaten down. I'm I think last year is the year that should have been this year, and that's why I'm so frustrated that they didn't make the decision to start fresh last year, and so last year's wasted. Now this year, they've done they really haven't done a whole lot to improve the team, except for, hey, they're a year older. I know the new regime is supposed to bring up a lot of fun and hope and new beginnings, but I'm not there, man. The scar tissue is too real, and I'm going to wait and believe it when I see it. So how do you look at this season with what we kind of know opening day roster for the first month?
Well, look, we're 3 days away from baseball season. And for me, because I'm me, I mean, I was at a 25 on a 1 to 10 scale before the 2019 season. So the badness of a team doesn't really stop my excitement. Just the excitement dissipates faster. It's all it is for me. Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I get it completely. You know, they didn't do a lot this off season, although I think we've talked about this a little bit, but I would argue that they did a lot of the heavy lifting during the season when they moved on from Santana and Merrifield and Benintendi and you know, they've what they've done coming into this season, I believe, is nothing sexy. It is, they looked at the bottom of the roster in 2022, and I think they looked at that and said that we lost a lot of games because 22 through 26 was god awful, and you can win a lot more games by simply not being awful at the bottom. And it's a really easy and quick way to fix a lot of things. And I think that's what they've done. I mean, you look at the bullpen as an example. The other day, Saturday maybe, they sent down Josh Taylor, who they got for Adalberto Mondesi, Richard Lovelady, who has had an uneven tenure in Kansas City, and Josh Stallman, who 2 years ago was their second best reliever. He was their second best reliever behind Scott Barlow. And you can look at the Royals bullpen right now and say, okay, well, they still have 8 guys who I trust in there. And then that's, or maybe 6, maybe it's not, maybe you don't trust Carlos Hernandez yet. I think that he's shown a lot this spring, but I get not trusting him. But basically what I'm saying is they have turned the bottom of the roster from just putrid weakness to they're fine. And if you look at what the good teams do, they don't give away games because of their backups. And the Royals gave away a lot of games because of their backups and their worst relievers and all that. And that's where I think we'll see the biggest difference this year. And I also think there's going to be just more competence on the bench from manager, pitching coach, all that. So I think that'll help quite a bit. But I mean, as far as excitement goes, it doesn't matter how bad they are. I'm going to be excited the week of opening day. Ask me next week, and maybe I won't be as excited.
Alrighty, I look at a baseball team as 4 different departments, okay? You've got the offense, you've got the defense, which are your position players, then you've got starting pitching, and then bullpen. Give me the order of strength or the ability to be good. So number 1 is, what's the best of those 4? Is it offense? Is it bullpen? Is it starting pitching? Is it defense? Give me the order in which strength to weakness, strength number 1.
In my order is bullpen, offense, defense, starting rotation.
Do you think the bullpen is going to be that good?
Yes.
Really?
I think this is a legitimately good bullpen. There are some questions, right? I mean, Aroldis Chapman is going to get important innings, and he was not good last year with the Yankees. The Royals believe they've fixed what ails him. We'll see. We'll find out pretty quick, I think. But I look at this bullpen, and the best example I can give you, Taylor Clark was, for a good chunk of time, their second best reliever last season. Says a lot more about the bullpen than Taylor Clark, absolutely. But whatever the reason, he was their second best reliever. He is a middle reliever on this club. I was wrong, but in my roster projection last week, I had a hard time finding a spot for him, and he was their second best reliever last year. So I think that it might take a little time to figure some things out, but I think they have so many big league caliber options in the bullpen that they will find a combination that is the strength of this team. It might, like I said, they might blow a game or two this week, but I mean, I think back, I'll never forget this. 2014, Wade Davis absolutely blew a game on his own against the Twins in April. And everybody's going, well, the bullpen stinks. It's Wade Davis can't be back there. It's a problem. This team they can't build on what they did in 2013, all that. Well, we know how that turned out. Early season bullpen is not indicative of late season. Last year, early season, the Royals bullpen looked really good. So if you want to judge what you can't judge things on, I just think they've got enough talent that they will figure out a group. And what's interesting is watching the Royals for as long as we have, and specifically watching the Royals pitching coach for the last 5 years, we have basically been trained to think it's not going to get better. If they're not good, they're not going to be good. Like there's no way to get that out of them. And that's not the case. I mean, look, I don't know. We don't know what Brian Sweeney can do. So it's the joy of the unknown. But I also believe that when you look at these guys who they now have on the big league coaching staff, I don't think it's no longer a foregone conclusion that that pitcher can't get better. There's actually, I mean, the instruction, the analytics, all that is actually on par with other teams. And you look at, we use the Rays a lot. It's an easy example. But I mean, look at these relievers who go to the Rays, and all of a sudden they go from being DFA'd by a bad team to being the Rays setup guy or whatever. They do that because they're smart. The Royals have smart people now. It's no longer what they were running with before. So I think that we'll notice a big difference in terms of that pretty quickly.
David Lesky is our guest. Does some incredible work at Inside the Crown. Just Google it, find it. You'll get the Substack. It's I cannot recommend it enough. Fantastic work David does over there. You can also follow David on Twitter at DBLesky. All right, Dave, we can't have you on here, and I have to get to a roster question for you because there are some roster crunching conundrums that the Royals are going to be under when they have to set up this opening day roster coming up this year. And even in general, setting their 40-man roster coming up this year. You've talked about it a lot Inside the Crown here. I'm with you. Franmil Reyes is a guy I think is pretty much I think it's your opening day DH. That's where I'm at this point, how well he's hit. But Franmil Reyes is probably going to make this team. Matt Beatty might make this team. It's been reported that Jackie Bradley Jr. is going to make this team. And then Matt Duffy should probably make this team. The problem is your 40-man roster is pretty much full at this point. What do you think the Royals are going to have to do to navigate this 40-man roster crunch to get some of these non-roster invites on the team? And who do you think are those casualties for some of the guys that, not everyone can just go to the 60-day injured list and that way their spot becomes open? Who are some of the first names that you think of who might be the casualties of simply there's 40-man roster spots that got to be generated?
Yeah, it's a tough math game they have to play because there are two guys, Jake Brent, who was signed recently and will not pitch maybe at all this year, but not for a long time. He's an easy guy. Put him on the 60-day, you're done. Diego Hernandez, he hurt himself early in the spring. He's out for months, not weeks, which is really just more weeks, but we call it that. He's an easy guy to move to the 60-day. That's two. And you're right. It's probably going to be 3 or 4. And I think there's an off chance. I don't think there's a great chance just because of that roster crunch, but we could see one of the relievers, Nick Whitgren or Ryan Weiss, I think are the two best options. They could break camp with the team. I mean, you're looking at, I don't think it'll be 5, but potentially 5 non-roster invites who could be on this roster, which you got to make, there's got to make 3 more spots. I don't know where they find it, to be completely honest. And in the past, there's been really, really easy answers. But Colin Snyder's a guy who I kept thinking would be the guy, but to be the casualty. He's pitched really well this spring. He might make the team. We'll find out pretty soon, I guess. Otherwise, I thought they might trade Amir Garrett. He seems like a guy who they could move at the end of spring training. It's still possible, but when you send down Richard Lovelady, that's a clear sign to me. Well, okay, they want to keep. They're going to have Chapman and Yarbrough in the bullpen. Well, Garrett probably is going to be there. They want to have a third lefty. I get that. Not really a second lefty. Yarborough's the third. The name I keep coming back to, at least for a third spot, Jonathan Heasley. He's had some shots in the majors. Hasn't generally been good. Had a terrible spring. I mean, I'd have to look. Spring stats are notoriously really difficult to find, but I can't imagine there's been a pitcher with a much worse spring than Heasley. 9 1/3 innings, 23 runs allowed. I mean, it's or maybe it's 23 hits and 19. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's ridiculous what he did. He earned that demotion to AAA, and I think he's a guy who could be a roster casualty. I wonder a little bit too. Richard Lovelady, maybe he's the guy who gets traded. They optioned him. He didn't seem happy. He's never really seemed happy with the Royals, and I think that it was justified a lot. I don't know that this one was necessarily justified to be unhappy about the demotion, because I think the Royals are going to work. They feel like they have a 13 or 14 man bullpen, and there's only room for 8. So guys are going to go up and down all season long. But I don't know. I don't know how they clear these spots. It's kind of one of the bigger mysteries to me, just because you look up and down the roster. Probably not going to be a position player because they've only got 16 on the 40 man. So you're looking at the pitchers, and it's a bunch of guys I think they'd really like to keep.
It's a tough conundrum for sure. A little last thing here of projections. There's a few position battles where we know where guys are going to be. There's a few of them we think they are locked up, but we don't know for sure. Of these 3 spots, who do you think is starting where on opening day? Who do you think is starting in center field? Who do you think is starting at second base? Who do you think is starting at third base on opening day?
Right field.
Jake would like right field added in there as well.
No, that was more of Abbott Costello, and you said third base, and I said
I don't know, third base.
Third base. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, bad joke.
Well, so I think who is on first, what is on second? No, center field. I'm pretty sure is going to be Kyle Isbell. I think that it was going to be a fun battle between him and Drew Waters, and then Drew Waters had to go and ruin it by getting hurt. Which, by the way, we're talking about a 60-day. I think he's doing well, but if he had any setbacks, he could be a guy to go on the 60-day also. It seems like he's swinging, so maybe not, but just throwing that out there. So I think it's going to be Isbell. I think they brought in Jackie Bradley just because they wanted the center field depth. The Royals really believe in center field defense. I get it. Big park. So I think it's Isbell. Second base, pretty confident it's going to be Michael Massey. He's had a really good spring. There's been a lot written about him. I keep hearing great things about his bat control and ability to barrel the ball, which they could use that in the bottom of the lineup. There we go. Bottom of the roster again. Improvement. Bottom of the lineup right there. Third base, it's going to be Dozier to start the year. I don't think it's going to be Dozier to end the year, but my prediction here is that August 1st, Hunter Dozier is no longer on the team. Maybe before then, but he either hits well enough to be traded or he doesn't hit well enough to stay on the team and he gets DFA'd. So I think that this is a last ditch effort. I will say his swing looks different. It looks better. People who have seen him have told me
better is relative.
He's not wrong.
All relative.
Hang on. Hunter Dozier, I think he has struggled. I'm not going to sit here and say Hunter Dozier has been a beacon of the Royals lineup. I think the criticism on him goes a little too far. He has since the start of 2019, and included 2019 was his best year. He's been a league average hitter. Take away 2019, and he's been below average. It hasn't been like he's been, Nicky Lopez, who doesn't get nearly the criticism for being a complete slap hitter. But anyway, I understand the disdain for Dozier. I don't think anybody's going to have to worry about Dozier by game. I shouldn't say a number because I actually don't know what number of game it will be, but let's say by game 115.
Okay, so who takes his spot then?
See, that's the great question.
Who's on the third base tree?
There are so many. There are actually options here. I'm not sure if they're great options, but we'll find out.
Relative too.
Well, over the next few months, we're going to find out if Bobby Witt Jr. can play shortstop. If 2022 is an indication, he can't. Jose Alguacil, the new infield coach, is supposed to be fantastic. Everything that I've heard is that he's done really well at shortstop this spring. It's nice that he's there and not focusing on two positions. We'll find out. If he can't play shortstop, he's the third baseman. And probably once Dozier gets moved however he gets moved, I feel like Witt will slide over to third, and that's that. If he can play shortstop, he's going to. And then that opens things up a little bit. And maybe it's Miguel Garcia who comes up to play third. I don't know. Maybe Nick Lofton has a nice start to the season in AAA. He put on some muscle. Maybe he plays third. Maybe Caden Wallace was their second-round pick last year. Maybe he skyrockets to the system. Maybe they go get somebody. I mean, I don't think it's crazy. And I wrote this today. I think the Royals will in some ways be buyers at the deadline, and not for 2023, but if there's something out there that can help the 2025 Royals that they can get in July, I don't think they're going to wait till November to get him.
All
I
right.
think they're going to make that trade.
Final two for the road, Dave. All righty. The Royals win total in 2023 will be what?
73. I wrote it today. I'm sticking with it. That is my official number.
Hammer the over. David Lesky says bet the mortgage on over 69 wins.
Absolutely. You can please bet your own mortgage, not mine.
So you like 70? What did you say? 70? I got so excited at the
73.
73.
That is the number, Jake.
You just heard 7,
Yeah, I just
and
heard
then you were
7,
done.
and I was like, hammer the over.
What if I had said 7 and 155? Then you would have felt like an idiot.
He's got you there.
No, I knew you weren't going to say 7. I used because you're a rational, well thought out individual who knows baseball. So
maybe it's 17. Who knows?
So you got 73. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me the X factor. One player.
Ooh, that's MJ Melendez. By the way, he's the right field answer. It's not. I don't know. I think MJ Melendez has a chance to take a big step forward this year in a lot of ways. He's been working in the outfield, something he didn't do before last season and got stuck out there. If he can do a little bit more with his contact, he doesn't swing and miss as much as you'd think, but he does. If he can get that average up in the 260s range with his plate discipline, with his power, he could be the guy. He could be one of those guys that really makes a huge difference in this offense. I think he's the X factor for this team.
Dave, you're the X factor for our team, bud. We appreciate all of the information. Great stuff inside the crown, folks. Go to Google, type in Inside the Crown. It's the very first thing up there. Click on it. If you like Royals baseball, you need to be following Dave. Great baseball mind. Dave, we appreciate the time. Enjoy opening day at the K where the Royals will play.
I will do that. Thanks, guys.
David Lesky, Inside the Crown. Coming up, we're going to get to all NFL and some Chiefs news, and then overreaction, proper reaction. Up here on 580 WIBW, Jake and Fulton caster with you as we are inching closer towards opening day at the K. Where the Royals will play.
I'm just gonna let you handle the rhyming, man. I'll let you keep trying to put together your poetic mastery.
We will talk more Royals tomorrow and Wednesday. We will be giving away our opening day two pairs of tickets. One is a 4-pack, a quartet, if you will, of tickets. And you know what? Just tell us your favorite Royal. I just want your favorite Royal. First person to text in and tell me your favorite Royal. You get registered for opening day tickets at the K. Your favorite Royal. I want to talk about some specific Royal right now. Because whoever it is, I hope it's just something completely absurd. I love Salvador Perez.
Yeah, so do I. He's pretty great.
I'm glad that he's a Royal. I think he will be the next Royal to get his jersey retired. I hope they don't trade him simply because you're not going to get any bang for your buck. And now that they are going to move MJ Melendez to the outfield permanently, I think now they're not going to trade Salvador Perez, and he'll be a Royal for the rest of his career. They meaning the front office, determined that MJ Melendez is going to be an outfielder and he's not going to be a starting catcher. That means that Salvador Perez is not going anywhere. Because right now, you can't trade Salvador Perez because you're not going to get anything for him. His contract is $20 million a year, and no one's going to want to pay $20 million a year for an aging catcher. If this were 3 years ago, then yes, I think you could trade Salvador Perez. But no one's going to do it. And once this contract ends in 2 years, no one's going to give him a big-time deal.
No.
So I think he's going to end up a Royal. So congratulations to the 785. Is that individual already pre-registered? If you've already registered, you can't text in. It's not how this works. You're just making more work for Fulton because he's got to look up the phone number whether or not you've already registered. We're trying to be nice here.
Listen, I'm going to give some respect to our friends on the text line. No one's tried it. No one has tried to double register.
Someone said, just kidding, I'm already registered.
See, they understand.
Thank you.
You need to have a higher standard for our friends on the text line. You need to stop thinking so less of them.
No, it's just,
we have some fantastic.
I just don't want
some fantastic listeners.
Okay.
And they understand the rules of the game. You can only register once.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And hopefully they can be the winner tomorrow.
You bet.
We'll see.
Let us know your thoughts. K-State fans, we're going to talk more hoops coming up at the bottom of the hour. K-State season coming to a close on Saturday. But right now, we're going to talk a little NFL. The big news of the day is that Lamar Jackson has requested a trade from the Baltimore Ravens. He did so in a trio of tweets. And I think Lamar Jackson has handled his contract situation very poorly. So much of the contract situation is done publicly. And you've got to have somebody who knows the business. All right. And we've got great evidence right now of someone who knows the business and gets their guys the contract and a first-time agent and then a player doing their own contract work. Lamar Jackson is his own agent, which I have no problem with. You don't want to pay that 3%. I get it. That saves a ton of money. But also having an agent does a lot of things, and that's control the narrative. You can leak some stuff to certain entities and certain media members to try to get something out on your behalf.
Yeah.
And this is what he says here. All of you are amazing, and I appreciate y'all so much. I want y'all to know not to believe everything you read about me. Let me personally answer your questions. As of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization for which the Ravens have not been interested in meeting my value. You're all great, but I had to make a business decision. That is what an agent is there for, to help steer it in your way. This is the first time we have heard from anything from Lamar Jackson's side. You want to know why? Because everything that we have been told and heard from is coming from the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the Ravens leaking it, because Lamar's his own agent. He's handled that very poorly. Another reason why you need to get someone experienced. Does Orlando Brown's name ring a bell? It ain't a surprise that Orlando Brown's contract, first-time NFL agent doing it, did not go well. He cost himself a lot of money. We are talking north of $10 million because he didn't have an agent. I personally believe that, and the numbers back it up. It did not go well. There are two things about this situation. Lamar Jackson asking for a trade on March 2nd, but announcing it on March 27th makes no sense. Lamar announcing it right now, he was already on the trade market. They already put him on the trade market. They gave him a restricted tag, meaning if you want to trade for Lamar Jackson, all it's going to take is 2 first-round picks. He was already trade bait. Any NFL team could have gotten Lamar Jackson from March 2nd until now. He needed to make this announcement on March 2nd. Like, that's what makes no sense.
Yeah.
So now, to me, Lamar Jackson is in the spot where I think Lamar Jackson needs to push it to the limit here and make this as uncomfortable as you can.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of thoughts about this, but I can't remember where I saw it from, that he needs to pull the Jimmy Butler and just make this entire situation chaotic and uncomfortable where they have to trade you. Here's the thing for me with this whole situation. One, Lamar, there's been times where I think he's not used the media and used, getting his voice out there enough, which I get it. From his perspective, I get it. He's trying to do this in his own way and try to, get what he wants, but not ruffle feathers. I get that. The other part is this, and this is not being talked about enough. One, we have never really gotten reported exactly for sure the numbers that Lamar wants. I think we've not ever gotten that. We know Lamar's seeking fully guaranteed or near fully guaranteed. And we had that one report of the Ravens that maybe it was like a 3-year 100-some guaranteed, but then Lamar said that ain't true. That ain't what happened. And I could believe that because the people that were saying that aren't the most reputable NFL sources that were saying that the 3-year deal was out there. In all this, though, there's something lost that I am really, really disappointed not enough people are pointing out. We are actively watching owner collusion and no one's calling it. What Lamar is doing is wanting to be in the lanes of Deshaun Watson's contract, which at the time, every owner that was not the Browns said, what the hell are you guys doing? Because it set a precedent. And Lamar, rightfully so, because he's a better player than Deshaun Watson, with nowhere close to any baggage that man has, wanted something similar. And I do not think I am outside of my bounds to say the owners are actively colluding to not allow another fully guaranteed deal of that size.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because there is a part of me that agrees with that. The market says what you're worth. You and I are owners of an NFL team. Okay? Just because 1 out of 32 decides to do something doesn't mean the other 31 have to follow. Let me give you an example. Let's say the Ravens give Mark Andrews $25 million.
Mm-hmm.
You're the best tight end in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. That doesn't mean that I'm willing to spend $25 million on Dallas Goedert if I think Dallas Goedert's better. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here.
I to a level do get your point. I do see it.
That is because how many people thought that was stupid?
No, everyone did.
Everyone did. So does everyone then say, oh, they did it? It's kind of the old adage where, hey, Fulton, just because the Haslams jumped off a bridge doesn't mean you have to too.
So
the question is, how high's the bridge?
Yeah, and here's what I'll say, Alex. I think you do make a valid point of we all thought it was stupid. That does not mean the other people need to be that stupid. Here's the thing, and this is just honestly free market principles, because that's what the NFL operates on. That's what the United States operates on in general,
except for the NCAA. But
professional sports. Let's go with let's word that. Professional sports operates on
capitalism.
On the,
professional sports.
It works on a free market principle. Yes, you are correct. No one has to match that and go, because I think the owners are basically all going, we're trying to correct the mistake that the Browns made. The problem is and we tell us all the time, different contracts reset the market for players. And so it's how, you want to get out in front of things so you get your thing done for them. That was our whole thing on Chris Jones of hopefully getting out before that. Now ended up working out because the Javon Hargrave deal was perfectly fine. But our entire thing was you want to get out in front of the Javon Hargrave deal because that could reset the market and increase Chris Jones's price. Because the minute X player is honestly, Christian Kirk's a great example of this. That guy got that contract. That reset a good chunk of the wide receiver market because all those guys that are infinitely better than him are going to want more money, and you can't really say no to that.
Okay.
Now, and so that's where I go. Now, Lamar has other extenuating circumstances that do affect the situation because his injury history is incredibly problematic as of late, and his availability matters. That is where guaranteed money comes in. You can go to the other stuff, and now this is the only one for quarterbacks. The thing is, if the owners are like in the process of trying to course correct, the owners are doing two things that I do have a problem with. One, like this counts as salary suppression. Like this counts as wage suppression if your idea is if the only reason, and now this is where else gets complicated. If the only reason the owners say we're not doing fully guaranteed is just we just don't want to do it, that's collusion, and that is not letting the market decide. They will never say that, and they will find
Let me ask you this.
things to point out.
All right, I want to.
Yeah.
Are you giving Lamar a guaranteed contract, fully guaranteed? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
Or yes. So okay, you have to with what you've been saying.
Yes.
I
No,
would not. I would. Me as an
Yeah.
NFL owner, I would not give him a fully guaranteed contract.
If I were a person who would negotiate with Lamar Jackson, it would not ever be an argument over fully guaranteed money. It'd be an argument over years and total price. That's what it'd be with me and Lamar.
Okay.
Because I would tell him like, I would tell him, I get it. Deshaun got fully guaranteed, and so now you want it too. Kirk Cousins has also gotten smaller fully guaranteed deals. Let's not forget that as well. Kirk Cousins has had 2 separate fully guaranteed contracts with the Minnesota Vikings. I would tell Lamar, I would tell him, like, also, Lamar, I think you're a better player. I would also tell Lamar, and part of the thing with the years and prices, I get it, Lamar. We win a lot with you. You also have to realize injury history matters. I'm not trying to knock you for it. But it's true. So I would give him fully guaranteed money. It would just come down to, can we lower years and price so we can kind of come together on this?
And that's what we will never know that.
We never will know.
And I have no problem. I really don't. I have no problem with what the Ravens are doing. And the reason why is I would not give Lamar Jackson 5 years, $250 million guaranteed. I would not do that.
That's fine.
I would not do that. And the big miss here to me is the NFC. The best quarterback in the NFC is Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this.
Yeah.
The second best quarterback in the NFC is a mixture of
Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr
or Dak Prescott
or Dak
or Geno or healthy Matt Stafford.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
If you are an NFC team, I would trade for Lamar Jackson yesterday. If I were the Falcons, I would trade for Lamar Jackson. You are a quarterback away from being in contention. If you are, see the Panthers,
they have their more overall pick. Like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know what they're going to do. They're going to either, like the Colts to me are an interesting example. It is a balance of how much you have to pay versus how much draft capital are you willing to give up.
Yeah.
I would not give Lamar Jackson a guaranteed contract. Now, there are some out there where Lamar Jackson has reportedly said that he's not happy with Josh Allen nor Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes, screwed every single quarterback because if he took the guaranteed money, everybody would get guaranteed money. But Patrick Mahomes,
him taking the deal so early in his career kind of messed up the market.
Well, not so much early in his career, the length of his deal. And to which I say is, in the NFL, do not give the players do not give a damn about anybody but themselves. And they should only care about themselves. Mm-hmm. They should only care about themselves because the NFL is not for long. And if Patrick Mahomes wants to look at his contract and what he wants to do, then it's the right move for him. Some people are like, oh, he did it wrong. He could have gotten so much more money. Well, Patrick Mahomes thinks, Because he's basically, I hope people, and this is also the misunderstanding of this, whatever Patrick Mahomes wants, he's going to get, okay? So if Patrick Mahomes, after next year, wants a new contract, he's going to get a new contract, okay? So if he's unhappy with the amount of money he's making, whatever. But he has said, hey, if I play out this entire contract, he's not. They're going to redo his contract. He is happy for what he's doing. He says, my life right now with the money I've got, he will never fly commercial again.
Nope.
He's got his own private jet. He has more money than Scrooge McDuck. And he's like, fine, I am okay with that. I would rather do it differently. Lamar Jackson, do not Josh Allen. Don't blame other people. Don't. It's what they want to do. Because you ready for this? Every single player in the NFL right now, if you're going to go that route, if you're going to blame another person for not helping the future of the quarterback position or the running back position, well, to me, then every one of you is a hypocrite because every one of you should have held out. You should have held out this last negotiating thing for guaranteed contracts and risked not playing an entire season. Because if you would have done that, then you'd have gotten guaranteed contracts for
Everybody.
the future, right? Why should I, Andrew Wiley, risk $3 million next year of my money for junior year in college, sophomore year in college O-lineman out of Georgia Tech? No, I don't give a damn about that guy. This isn't about the future. This isn't about, we need guarantee. No, I am here for my money. My money, not your money. Do what you want to do. Damn everybody else. That's why there's no guaranteed contracts, because the players currently care more about themselves than they do about the future Players Association of the NFL. And you want to know what? They should. They shouldn't. Or they should care only about themselves, because you are not in the NFL for long. Get your money while you can.
Yeah, no, and you're right. That is a different thing. There is precedent that if you want to issue dramatic change in your sport, everyone has to come together and find a way. Every other sporting league in their history has had moments to where guys got together and it was a risky move and it cost you yourself. The best example is Curt Flood. Curt Flood cost his entire career, but he created free agency in baseball. Curt Flood put his career on the line to help everyone else. And I'm with you. Guys don't have to do that. I do not think athletes are under any sort of moral obligation to all band together and do this. If
they had
enough
a chance.
Want to,
they had a chance. They
chose
chose not to.
And if down the line enough want to, more power to them. But until you do, that I've always said, because the NFL players, I think, complain about their CBA sometimes the most. And my reference is always this: you guys get a chance. You just guys got to come together and negotiate. MLB is learning that. The MLBPA is learning that. We saw with the most recent lockout is they're trying to use their power more. I've said it plenty of times. The NBA Players Association is the best one out there. They know what they're doing. They get what they want. There's a reason, NBA contracts for fringe dudes are ridiculous. And everyone goes, man, why is when Tyler Johnson got $84 million, everyone goes, why is this bum getting $84 million? I'm like, because the players collectively bargained that X amount of money has to go to players, and that they won the ability to do that.
So I think Lamar has done some of this himself, but he still can if you make such a big stink about it. You might.
How much
does
Lamar care about this for both himself and for setting up the future of quarterbacks, that quarterbacks get guaranteed money? Because he's got a chance, but how long do you stick with it?
By the way, Andy Reid did mention in his interview a few things about wide receivers. We can get to that. Not a whole lot new when it comes to Big Red. We will get to potentially new rules coming up tomorrow in the NFL, the latest news when it comes to that. A bunch to get to in the NFL. But coming up next, little overreaction, proper reaction here on Mic'd Up. Overreaction, proper reaction. The final top 25 poll. K-State will be ahead of KU. Overreaction, proper reaction.
I'm going to say proper reaction. I think because of how far they went, I think it'll be like a one spot ahead jump. They'll be close, but I think they'll give K-State that little bit of respect.
I think K-State will be ranked in the top 16. I think KU will be ranked in the top 16, but I think K-State will be higher. Like, Princeton's not going to be ranked ahead of KU.
No. It'd be funny, though.
You know, do I think Tennessee or, you know, some of those who made the Sweet 16 that lost and didn't make the Elite Eight, will they be ranked ahead of KU? No, but I think K-State will be ranked. I think K-State will be ranked top 10. I don't think KU will.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
So I'm going to say proper reaction.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Opening days this week, so I was going to go baseball themed here.
Understandable.
And I think this is going to be a fun one. Overreaction, proper reaction.
Tough one.
The Kansas State Royals steal 150 bases as a team this year.
That's an overreaction.
Okay. Do you know how many they had last year?
146.
They had 104. No one's been at 150 in a while, I think.
No.
Because last year's league leader was 128.
No, that's overreaction. I don't think they're going to run as much as people think.
See, that's where you and I disagree.
You think they are? Bigger bases?
I will say, I think 150 is on the fringe of making me think that's a little high, but I think it's really doable. I think the Royals, like, consistently, like, for like the past, nearly decade, the Royals run. Like, they're always in the top 5.
Let me ask you this. Do the Rays steal a lot of aces?
Last year, they were, I'm going to try and do this math here. They were 13th in the league last year in stolen bases.
How many?
95.
How many attempts, though? I don't need...
I do not have attempts for you. I can do the math. What's 95 plus 25? Because that'll get the answer.
That's 120.
Okay. I'm bad at math. I will openly admit that. That's how... Actually, no. Sorry. I was one spot high. 95 plus 37. So
they
130.
Attempted, so they had a very high
132
success rate then.
Yeah. Stole 95 bases, were caught 37 times.
So, no, they're not going to. Because, congratulations, we are, we make fun of K-State as Purple Baylor. Congratulations, we are Blue Rays.
So here's what I have to say on stolen bases, because this has become kind of a topic of conversation. I think all around the league, we will see, like, those spring training numbers we saw where it jumped. I think we're going to keep seeing that. You're correct in that part of the reason teams haven't been doing it is the numbers tell you not to do it.
Correct.
Like, that was the math part. The problem is, with the things that have changed, the math's better now. The other part is this. Do you just know, one, the Royals have some power, but not a ton, so you need to manufacture runs in a different way. 2, do you, know how many, fast players the Royals have on this roster?
6 of them.
Bobby Witt Jr. can steal bases, and I think could be a 30-30 guy. If Nate Eaton gets consistent playing time, he'll steal a bunch, because Nate Eaton is the second fastest player on this team. Michael Massey's speed isn't great, but there's some wheels on the juice there. If Nicky Lopez is playing, he can steal bases. MJ Melendez sneakily can steal. It's not often, but can. Kyle Isbell has good speed to do it. Drew Waters, when he's healthy, can do it.
All right, before you stop, right there, you just said if for 3 guys. And that's the reason why. You said if he's playing, if he's playing, if he's playing. Well, if they're not playing, well,
No, I
then,
agree.
then they're not. So, no, I think
I think overall, I
overreaction.
think the Royals are going to run. I think they will reclaim their spot as the top team in stolen bases this year, yet again. And I think they're going to run a lot this year. I really do. I think all the things changing, the Royals are going to want to be a bit more aggressive and find a way to manufacture runs. I think Matt Cortrero is not a slave to data in the idea of we have to be optimal. I think Matt will go for the idea of we need to find ways to win. And so I think for the Royals, that means if we got to manufacture a little bit of chances to be in scoring position, I think they will.
Overreaction, proper reaction. UConn should be and is the overwhelming favorite to win the NCAA title.
Proper reaction. UConn is far and above the best team left amongst these 4. Far and away.
Overreaction, proper reaction. The title game is Miami versus UConn.
That's a toughie. I think just barely it's an overreaction. Because I think San Diego State, or even, I think all 3 teams can, I think Miami will pose the toughest test to UConn in trying to win a national title. Because I think they have the most dynamite offense to have to be put up with. And San Diego State defense, man, it just wears you down. It just does. Like, no offense to the Owls of FAU, I think the easiest path for UConn is if they had to face FAU in the national championship game, because Vlad Golden did some nice things against K-State, and he's done some nice things in this tournament. Adama Sanogo versus Vlad Golden goes one way, and it's a recreation of it's just a bloodbath with how good Adama Sanogo is inside. I think it's just barely an overreaction because I think San Diego State can pose enough of a challenge with how well they play defense and how much they slow down games that they would pose a real threat to UConn. But Miami and UConn is very much a winner of that. I think winner of that is the favorite in the national title game. I think no matter what, whoever wins that game is the favorite going into the game.
Yeah, I think the winner of that one wins it all. I don't think San Diego nor FAU will be able to beat either one of those teams. I think that's the title game. Title game. Congratulations. Saturday night. 8:00. Title game.
No respect to San Diego State or Florida Atlantic.
No,
wow.
Not in my opinion.
Wow.
Coming up next, K-State versus FAU. We'll recap it here on Mic'd Up. Alrighty, first person to text in who the Chiefs right now have as their starting left tackle. He's a newbie. Give you a little hint there.
Little new name there. Have to get a little creative.
First person to text in who is the Chiefs' new left tackle gets registered for Royals opening day tickets.
And we haven't actually probably brought him up in a hot minute, too.
Nope.
Testing some memories here.
Yep.
Some people who are paying attention to the news.
Yep. 785-272-9429. If you can text in.
Who's the Chiefs' new left tackle?
Who's the Chiefs' new left tackle? All right. He's a free agent. They signed him. He's played right tackle his entire NFL career, but they're going to move him to left tackle because he's athletic. You can tell me who that is. You get registered for opening day tickets at the K on Thursday. I probably made this one too hard.
Nah, we'll see. We'll see. We've gone kind of across the board. If people need it, the people can tell us if they need some more hints.
We'll Google it.
I mean, that's also true. We've never said you can't look up these answers.
No.
It just costs you time.
Yeah.
It's obviously faster if you know at the top of your head, but we have not ever said there was a rule against Googling any of the answers we asked for.
Bam! We got
There
an
it
answer.
is.
Make sure that this individual has not won or registered before, but out of the 785, it is correct. It's Juwan Taylor. So, got another person registered for Royals opening day tickets. That works out well. Kansas State Wildcats had a season that, if the definition of bittersweet in the dictionary had example, it would be this K-State team. It would. I think this is more bittersweet for K-State than KU losing in the Final Four to Villanova. And the reason why is you expected that KU team to be good.
Yeah, you did.
You did.
You expected them to make a run to the Final Four.
You know, and you were still like, oh my gosh, it's still bittersweet, but I would rank this one higher for Kansas State because of how this season ended, how the season went, because this is a much tougher loss than Loyola, than 2010 losing to Butler. Much tougher loss. In fact, I think you can argue this loss could be the most painful individual loss for Kansas State. Because I think this loss is more devastating than losing to UC Irvine or losing to LaSalle or losing to Wisconsin when Beasley got there this freshman year. I don't remember who they beat, and they lost to Wisconsin in the second round. I don't remember who they beat that year. Because Loyola beat them pretty good in 2019. They beat K-State pretty good. It wasn't much of a game at the end. Same thing for Butler. I want to say, gosh, the Butler game, did Butler win that thing?
63-56.
And I don't think it was even that close.
Yeah, probably not.
This one, to me, is a tougher pill to swallow because you were up by 6, 8 minutes to go. I still think K-State's the better team. Now, I don't think they're much better, but I do think they are the better team.
Yeah. Also, for what's worth, because I just wanted to look into this. K-State in that year with Beasley, of course, lost to Wisconsin in the second round.
Hold on. They beat.
Do you remember what seed they were that year?
Yeah, they were 6.
They were not the 6.
They're the 11?
They were the 11.
Okay.
So they beat the 6.
Yeah. And then they lost to the 3 seed, which was Wisconsin.
Yep. Wisconsin, the Badgers.
Who did they?
Yes, dude, the Badgers.
Give me the league.
Pac-12. At that time, I was in the Pac-10.
I'm going to go with USC.
Correct. The Trojans. Yep, they beat USC 80-67.
Swish.
And then they lost 72-55 to Wisconsin.
But the definition of bittersweet is that because every single K-State fan right now is excited for what's going to happen. Tomorrow we are going to look at next year for K-State and for KU. We'll get to that. And it's bittersweet because everybody loved this team. I think this team everybody hopped on board. And I think everybody is rowing in the same direction. I think everybody's loving Jerome Tang. I think everybody is, loving this run. And that's why I think this loss will be brought up more. If I had to rank them, I would go with this year, then 2010 in terms of painful losses, because I do think Butler was a better team than this FAU team. I think K-State wasn't as talented in 2019 as they are this year. And also the way it went down. Getting out rebounded by 22, allowing 15 second chance points. The end of the game, the last 8.5 minutes, there were 16 possessions for each team. K-State scored on 6 of them, but FAU scored on 11. K-State just ran out of gas, and they did not play as a cohesive unit, especially on offense in the last 8 minutes. And the microcosm of the game was the final play of the game. They didn't quite get what they wanted for the majority of the game. They just seemed a little bit out of place. And FAU did every little thing right. In order to win the game, K-State had to have Keontae Johnson in foul trouble. They had to not rebound the basketball, and they had to not make free throws. If one of those 3 things doesn't happen, if Keontae Johnson's not in foul trouble, K-State wins. If they rebound the basketball better, K-State wins. If they make their free throws, K-State wins.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that K-State didn't do that FAU did do.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about, did so-and-so win the game?
Or did, so-and-so lose the game?
So-and-so lose the game. To me, it is if you are from a FAU point of view, it is FAU won that game. FAU won it. We did this. We did this. To me, from a Kansas State point of view, I think Kansas State lost the game because the last 8 minutes, they were not themselves. Credit to FAU. But that wasn't the same team that played against Montana State, that didn't play against Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Kansas State at the end of the game made too many mistakes, and that cost them. And that's what's frustrating about this, I think. Still an unbelievable season.
Oh, it's a great season.
We'll talk about the legacies of these guys as well. Because I think I have no idea who's going to win between FAU or San Diego State. And I have no idea, like, if K-State took on San Diego State, I think it's a coin flip game either way.
Yeah.
I really, really do. If K-State right now is in the Final Four taking on San Diego State, I think it's a coin flip. Because right now, San Diego State's a 2-point favorite, I believe, over FAU.
There. Last I saw.
So that could have been the streak that K-State is on in the Elite Eight.
It's brutal. No one has lost more consecutive Elite Eight games than Kansas State. It is. It's brutal. And I think that's what compounds it a little bit.
Oh, for sure it does.
I think that's why KU's loss to Villanova in that Final Four in 2018 wasn't as well. I mean, it was still brutal. Let me tell you. It sucked watching KU get blitzed from 3 by Villanova. That was painful. But there's a level to it that wasn't as painful as it could have been because you had finally gotten over the hump of the Elite Eight to get to that spot. You'd lost in 2 straight Elite Eights, one of those being to Villanova. The past 2 years, you were trying to, you just couldn't get there. So trying to finally getting there changed. I think that's another thing for K-State, why this one is so bittersweet, is, you weren't supposed to be here, so that's fine. But to keep losing in the Elite Eight, it has to keep eating at you. You want to get over that hump. You have to now keep wondering, when are we going to finally get over that hump if you're K-State?
Coming up next, we're going to finish things off with the mic drop. Finishing things off here on the mic drop. Fulton, what do you got?
We're going to properly look back on this K-State season more as this week goes on, in addition to everything else we're going to cover this week. But I would be remiss if I didn't do another opportunity to just say, man, was it fun watching Marquise Noel play basketball this tournament, and particularly this past 2 weekends games. I mean, he breaks it into a tournament record with 19 assists. He goes 30-12 in the Elite Eight. Does everything he can to bring this team where it needs to be. It was a pleasure. It was a joy. I'm excited and happy we get to properly eulogize this team in this season more coming up this week. But, man, I am bummed that I don't get to watch Marquise Noel play basketball at the collegiate level anymore, and hopefully I get to see him play it at a higher level. But, if anything, it was a very fun way for that career to end.
Kansas State made it to the Elite Eight a year basically to the day in which they made a head coaching change. And you can argue that the program now is what fans expect from the K-State program, which is a winner. But also, I don't know if K-State basketball has been this united since Bob Huggins took over, when everybody was excited that the Huggy Bear was going to come in. I mean, this is what you wanted if you were Kansas State, a team and a coach that you are behind. That'll do it for this edition of Mic'd Up. We will talk to you tomorrow at noon. Coming up next, we've got 580 Sports Talk. Have yourselves a great evening.